it half full or is it half empty? Now, experience tells us that one answer says that you're an optimist, and another answer says that you're a pessimist or a realist. But I've learned that life usually has more options than just black and white, two answers. We have options. We all must use our talents, abilities, and our passions. This is something that we all need to understand and embrace. The future of humanity depends on it. The world has lost its faith in our political and our corporate leaders. We've seen countless examples of leaders who have done things that they knew was wrong in their hearts, but they did it anyways. I myself have seen 3 different CEOs from my former company make millions of dollars while they laid off thousands of employees. Ultimately, I was made redundant. That's a fancy way of saying I lost my job, while some executives made some very large bonuses. Sadly, this is not the only my story, but millions of people have lived and continue to live this story. Wall Street and shareholder value love this, but it isn't very sustainable and it's not very good for our societal soul. We become disillusioned that real change is possible and that we can solve the real problems. Nobody is responsible and nobody is accountable. Charles Osgood has written a poem called Responsibility Poem. You might know it as the story of everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. It gets a little tricky to keep the names straight, but basically it boils down to, under everyday normal conditions, people avoid responsibility and accountability and believe that somebody else will do what needs to be done. But somebody has to step forward. Somebody. Now, we're all smart people, and we've all seen this story played out countless times before. We all believe that it will get done, but somebody else will do it. But guess what? We're all somebody. Sometimes we feel like we're nobody, and we don't believe in ourselves and our abilities. But we all have something to contribute. When I was a teenager, I learned this concept of stewardship. And what stewardship meant to me was that I felt a sense of obligation to my church and to its members, that I would use our church's resources responsibly and wisely. Now, some of you feel a similar obligation to your clubs and have become officers. But I feel that we all need to feel this sense of obligation, stewardship, to our earth. We did not inherit this earth from our parents or our grandparents, but we have borrowed it from my daughters, from your children, your grandchildren. It is not ours to use as we want. We owe future generations more than this. Accountability and responsibility. That doesn't mean that we have to do everything all by ourselves. We can do things in groups and we can delegate, but we need to work out the details. And we need to plan and have options and know what we'll do when those plans fail, because some of them will fail. When I look at climate change and some of the other problems that we face today, it's like we're on the Titanic and you see that iceberg on the horizon. Now, we can change and avoid it, or maybe we have to change and we can minimize the damage. But we have to see the iceberg. And what do? We argue about the color of the water. it takes us to act, the more severe our action is going to have to be. And less likely it is that we're going to like the actions that we actually have. Charles Dickens said in The Tale of Two Cities, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness." Every century and every decade has its own search for identity. We're still searching today to find our identity in the 21st century, in the post-Cold War, post-September 11th world. Who will we become, and what will we do? We all need to see this glass as more than half empty or half full. We all have something to contribute. Fellow Toast learners, honored guests, Madam Contest Chair, my daughters, your children, your grandchildren, future generations are depending upon us. Don't just be nobody. Be